In the dead of night, when the moon is high and ill winds blow, and the banshees cry and the moonlight casts an unearthly glow, arise, my love, with tales of woe.
Good evening. It is 12 midnight, the paranormal hour. Welcome to Ghost. I'm your host, Chief Lawson. Ghost is a podcast to discuss all paranormal and parapsychology subjects. You can find Ghost on all major formats, so tell your friends, tell your family. Come listen to Ghost. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the midnight hour. It is time for Ghost. Tonight's topic, haunting of Epworth Rectory. And tonight, I have as my co-host, Sarah Medley.
Hello.
Heather Lawson.
Hello.
And I have Eric Knight.
Good evening.
And the Reverend Michelle Knight.
God bless you.
And, ladies and gentlemen, this is one that Michelle wrote, our subject matter expert. I am so proud to get to put this on. I'm so happy she did this. And the story is the haunting of Epworth Rectory at St. Andrew's Church of England. And I'll tell you, I've been in the St. Andrew's Church. Well, I've been around St. Andrew's Church. It was closed, and they had a line and a half, so I didn't go in very far. But I'll tell you, this one's interesting. So I'm just going to turn this over to you, let you start out and lead us in, okay?
I will. What's fascinating about this haunting is sometimes it's referred to as the haunting of Epworth Rectory, and then other times it's referred to as the Wesley ghost, known as Old Jeffrey, or the third thing it's referred to as the Epworth poltergeist. So that gives you enough to kind of get a tease on what exactly happened in this family home that was connected to this parish church over 8 weeks plus a little extra. And it had such an impact on the family that 70 years later, John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist movement that impacted colonial America, was writing about it in his later years because he was still trying to understand what happened to his family. And it certainly is a window into a time period in which, yes, the Enlightenment is taking place, but we have a family who are faith-oriented and have an understanding of the spiritual realm in such a way that as you watch them try to figure out what's happening in their home, you see them go through some of their own questions, but also you see them wrestling with their own faith. So we'll speak to that in a little bit. So first, this takes place at a rectory. So this, for those of you who are unfamiliar, this is like a parsonage. So this is where the clergy and his family lived. And clergy at the Church of England were sent to a church and they stayed there till they died, literally.
Yeah, there was no transfer, upgrade, or promotion.
No. So the family stays in this home until 1735 when Samuel Wesley, the father, dies. And so this is located in the North Lincolnshire district of England. And my understanding is it's considered an isle in that there's a lot of waterways.
Yes.
It was pretty soggy. And so they had to do some wonderful engineering and drainage work. So it becomes this fertile land.
Lincolnshire has a lot of bogs.
Absolutely. So it becomes this beautiful place to grow things. But Epworth becomes like the little town center where everybody brings their goods in. And so this is the parish home. And so this takes place over 8 weeks beginning December 1st, 1716. So we're coming up on the 310-year anniversary of this haunting.
Wow. It's got to be one of the oldest hauntings there is. 300 years.
310 years. And what's fascinating is as I leaned into learning more about it, there are a lot of hauntings all over Great Britain, right? And some of them are more famous than others. This one's certainly famous for those of us who are metho nerds. I'm a Methodist nerd, okay? So this is famous for us, but this one is so well documented. And I really want you to pay attention to that because we have a large family living in this home, and there are 13 original letters from folks who are living in the home who are writing back and forth to family members. There's 2 different family members' personal journals as eyewitness accounts. Then we have John Wesley's work in 1784, 70 plus years later, reflecting on it. And so it is so well documented what this family went through. It's amazing to think about that. And we have these original letters because John Wesley then becomes famous. So therefore, this home is now a museum.
Yes, and I tell you, most hauntings aren't that well documented.
No, it's remarkable. And it's remarkable that we have voices from the sisters who are the daughters in the home who are sharing their experiences. And then the brothers who are away from home writing back advice. Well, have you tried this to figure out what's happening in the home, trying to tell mom and dad what to do? It's absolutely fascinating. So in the home, we have the Reverend Samuel Wesley. We have his wife, Susanna. And a pause for all the ladies listening. Susanna Wesley had 19 children.
Wow.
But only 10 of them survived childhood.
As happened in that time.
Absolutely. And some of those losses were a set of twins. Some of those losses were one of the twin died, but the other twin lived. And then I couldn't find a lot of other evidence, but there is a little bit of a story about one of the nannies or one of the extra nurses caused harm to a child and that child didn't make it. But I don't know that was purposeful harm or if that was
accidental
neglect.
Or neglect or something. So, but she only had 10 that survived adulthood. So we'll get to that trauma of Susanna Wesley a little bit later.
Okay.
So living in the home, there's 7 of the 10 living kids. And they're all the daughters. And what gets kind of tricky is some of them have nicknames. So 7 of the daughters are living at home. All 3 of the male children are off at school.
Okay.
And that comes into part of the story when it first starts happening. So Samuel Jr. is off doing his things. He's the oldest. John is only 12. And his youngest brother, Charles, they're off at boarding school. And so they just are a part of the letter writing history that we have. We have 1 maid living in the home, Nanny Marshall. And then we have 1 manservant, Mr. Robert Brown, and there's a cat. And at one point as the haunting begins,
a mastiff.
Yes.
Oh, those
Samuel
are cool.
brings home a mastiff to ward off whatever they think is happening.
Nice thing the mastiff is, if you ever want to own horses, you want to own dogs, it's kind of that in between. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to read just how this haunting starts from John Wesley's words. And this is just fascinating. So on December, in the evening, while Robert Brown, my father's servant, was sitting with one of the maids a little before 10 at night in the dining room, which opened into the garden, they both heard a knocking at the door. Robert rose and opened it, but could see nobody. Quickly, it knocked again and groaned. "It's Mr. Turpin," said Robert. "He had the stone and used to groan so." Mr. Brown opened the door again twice or thrice, and the knocking being twice or thrice repeated, but still seeing nothing and being a little startled, they rose and they went up to bed.
So nobody's there. We're just going to
go to bed.
knocking. We're going to ignore it and go to bed.
Yeah. So I just wanted you to hear that in that kind of mindset.
Sure.
But also think about this. So apparently there's a superstition in the 1700s that when someone you love is far away from you and their death is imminent, you will hear a knocking on your door and no one will be there. So you can imagine.
It's knocking 3 times.
Yeah.
There's a catch to it.
I was going to say, Chief.
Yeah.
Sometimes entities will knock or do 3 things in triplicate.
Yes.
As mocking the Trinity, unfortunately.
Yep. That's what's generally taken.
Yeah.
You don't know anybody who I think that throws rocks, do you? Never mind. We're just moving on. Go ahead.
No. So what happens then as this begins in December, Susanna and the girls and the servants notice everything first. And Susanna's fearful then that her oldest son is going to die.
Yeah.
So she immediately writes him a letter, knowing it's going to take multiple days to get to Samuel, then it's going to have to take multiple days back. But so that first week of all of this paranormal experience, she is fearful that her son is going to die because that's what's happening. And
that's traditionally the thing that happens with 3 knocks at the door and no one there. Yeah.
Yes. And so there's lots of things. So I do want to remind everybody who's listening, the team has in front of them the floor plan of the parsonage. So I want you to have your floor plan ready because we're going to walk through some of the things that happen in the home. There's 2 main levels, and then the upper level, which you and I would call an attic, they refer to as a garret. So it's not, when we talk about a garret tonight, we're not talking about a guy named Garrett. We're talking about the upper level attic area. And so there is experience over the next week happening on every level of this home. And just a reminder, this is a brick home. And I said before we started the show tonight, this home in 1716 is new. Yeah. Because the parsonage burnt to the ground in 1709.
Wow.
And that was the parsonage that they believe was arsoned because Samuel Wesley was a little political in his preaching. And so
it happens.
It happens. Well, so he got a little dicey with the community. And so the rumor was always that the parishioners burned the parsonage to the ground. But then the story is our John Wesley was just a young little boy at the time. He jumped out of the second floor, was caught and captured. So his mother always referred to him as the brand plucked from the fire. And so his life was
came from.
So his life was saved for a purpose, which we could see that in some of the evidence of his later ministry. But so, and we're in 1716 when this begins. So this parsonage now is fully brick. So the team is also looking at a picture of the parsonage or the rectory. And so it's fully brick.
Yeah, I got that already.
There's no electrical. There's no indoor plumbing. There's no central heat, no central air. This is pretty basic. There's some beautiful
There's a term to this. I can't remember what they call the houses shaped like that.
Oh, it's like a Queen Victorian style.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I remember hearing it,
Yeah. So it's really interesting to think about that because what I'm going to ask the team here in a few minutes is how would you go investigate this? What kind of techniques and things would you use? Because we already know there's no electrical in this building. There's no plumbing in this building. So how would you figure out what's going on for this family? It's pretty remarkable. So from that first night, then it continues, and there's all kinds of things. We have audible sounds, and I'll describe a variety of them. Then we also have apparitions that are seen, and there's a variety of those. And then we have things that are physically manipulated, and it's a whole variety. So some of the things, we have a lot of groaning, a lot of knocking. There's also what's called a turkey cock cobble.
I've not heard of that.
I know. They claim they heard this turkey sound. There's a lot of footsteps. There's a lot of knocking.
Are they possibly talking about the sound Tom makes?
Yeah, exactly. A cock is considered a male version of it, so it's the male gobble.
Yeah, it's the male gobble. So that's what they heard, but
we have wild turkeys out here. They're very distinct, the male over the female.
Okay, well, you guys know more than I do. So they hear a smashing of bottles under the stairs and money pouring under the stairs.
Oh.
And so I was going to ask you guys, like, you're far more experienced in have you ever heard claims like that before?
Yes. That's nothing unusual.
Okay. Because I thought that was weird.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of it goes back to the sound itself. A lot of, and this is going way, way back, we're talking 1500s, there was a lot of superstition that they would take coins because you had to pay the devil to leave you alone. Okay. And they would make wind chimes out of coins. They would punch a hole in them and put them together.
Interesting.
And you had to use a bone as the center port of the wind chimes to ring it because that's the only way the devil would come. And yes, that's something I heard. Also, a lot of times when we investigate a place, sometimes we go in initially early to kind of map a thing out. If it's a private case, I'll look at the window sills because a lot of times you'll find coins. That's superstition. They use those to bar the way. When we bought this place, there was a quarter in one of the bedroom windows. and I don't know that that bedroom's been any more active than anything else, but it was a quarter in there, which is usually someone who has done that. And there's a lot of different theories. One is that, the coin is made out of silver. Unfortunately, a lot of U.S. currency doesn't have enough pure metals in it.
Nope.
Not anymore. But
it's all about intent.
It's intent.
About what's in
and the other thing was
coin.
to carry the farrier that ferried the, in some religions it would ferry the soul across the, so sometimes that's exactly why they put coins on, of course the real reason to put coins, if you ask any undertaker, on someone's eyes when they die is keep the eyes closed. But a lot of people would say it was to carry your soul across. So, thought there.
Okay. Cool. So then other sounds are the tingling of latches, loud noises in every room, people walking up and down the stairs. If you look on your floor plan, there's 2 sets of stairs in this home. There's activity on both sets of stairways.
Mm-hmm.
The sound of clockwork sounds. And there's a lot of mimicry, which is really interesting. And it gets intense as the weeks go on.
That mimicry, they hear people's voices of other people, like doppelgangers.
Yeah.
In other words, if they knock or make a sound, it'll mimic the sound.
Yeah. So apparently, for example, Mr. Samuel Wesley is the rector. So sometimes he would come home late at night. And so the family would know who he is. He had a particular way he would knock on the front door.
Yes.
And so what's recorded in John Wesley's writings is what his dad's knock was. And then at one point, Mr. Wesley challenges whoever this is to mimic him. It doesn't happen that night, but it happens the next night.
Yeah. So it eventually does happen, and that's still mimicry.
Yeah.
Now, real quickly, as a note, victor and rector, there's a difference between a vicar and a rector. Now, you know the difference?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. The difference between a rector. Rector is thought of someone who has been, and sometimes they're one and the same, but it's their duty to be a caretaker or trustee of the property. The vicar is actually the minister, priest, reverend that actually preaches there. And the only reason I bring that up is because it's confusing. If you don't know the English turnabouts on that. So
yeah. So he would have been out late. So his knock was like a 1, a pause, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pause, and then 7.
And you know why they did that in a lot of cases. That way they were known who they were.
Exactly. Because
sometimes you didn't open doors back then, because the the natives of the area would come up and knock because they seen people do that. When they opened it, they'd rush the door. That's where I think a lot of our SWAT tactical forms came in, because it was the easy way of fooling them.
There's natives in England?
Yeah, I don't know where he was going with that.
I don't know.
Now.
The natives aren't Indians. They're highwaymen.
Okay.
There's no natives
in England. I may have used the wrong terminology. There were, London was full of crime.
Oh, yeah, there's full crime.
But I know this isn't London, but I'm just saying, a lot of times people back then, you didn't have porch lights.
Oh, no.
It was a lot less secure. So you would, if you told somebody, it was a good friend that came often, hey, if it's an emergency, you have to come late at night, knock like this.
Yep.
And so that, there's also certain ways that secret societies knock, which, that would let someone know if they belong to that society, it was safe to open the door. Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately, crime has transcended the ages,
Yes, nothing new under the sun.
No.
So lots of knocking. There's a sound of the swooshing of a silk nightgown. And that also happens by itself. And then that sound of a long night dress happens with the apparition of a man. Mm-hmm. There's the planing or sawing of wood sounds. Mm-hmm. And again, the knocks that happen in triplicates or sets of 3s. There's metallic sounds, lots of bowls or bottles smashing, pewter falling falling down.
Wow! And pewter makes an odd sound too. It's a thudding kind of sound. It does.
And so this happens from December 1st till about December 20th. Most of the time during those first couple weeks, it's happening at about 9:45, just ahead of 10 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
But when we get to December 20th, it starts happening during the day.
That's odd.
I know.
The cutoff, that's very singular.
Yeah, it's interesting. It starts happening, at least what I could put together.
And a lot of this, as you read through it, like, okay, knocking on a fireplace screen, that's very distinctive.
Yes.
I mean, it's not sounds, the sounds were done with intent. They're not done to be mistaken. You know, men...
You said they're getting closer to the 20th and 21st of December?
December 20th. After that, the sounds are during the daytime and the night.
You're getting closer to the solstice.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's very interesting. True. So then if we switch from the sounds, just a little bit of what's happening in the visual or what's physical happening. So apparently there's a hand mill up in the garret area. And remember, that's the attic. And Mr. Brown, the manservant, gets up there and he sees the hand mill turning.
Automated, but with no motor.
Yes, automated, but with no motor that he can see visually. There's latches that lift. There's room doors that lift and shake. The daughters see the apparition of a man in the night clothes and hear that swishing sound. At one point, Mr. Brown sees an apparition of a white rabbit. At another point, Mrs. Wesley sees an apparition of what looks like a badger that then went underneath her daughter's petticoats. And what's unclear in the storytelling is we're assuming that for whatever reason, Emily's not wearing her petticoats at the time. So they may have just been sitting somewhere and the badger goes
because they're free form. They would stand up like starched pants. I mean, you know, the hoop.
So that's kind of interesting. So study latch lifted, the windows and doors rattle, all warming pan rattles, the back door in the back kitchen is pushed against Emily. And then at different points, the whole house shakes.
Wow.
Then at one point, the girls are playing cards on one of the beds. And while they're playing cards, the bed levitates.
Wow.
That's significant.
The amount of energy that this or these entities have is egregious. Yeah.
It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Then so Mr. Samuel Wesley notes 3 times that he was brutally shoved into his desk or in the doorway of his study. And then Mr. Hoole, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, is one of a neighboring clergy person who Mr. Wesley invites into the home and like at the end of December. And he is also pushed during his observance of the activities. I just found like this was a lot that happens in 8 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Like this is a lot. So
you know, and this can be crazy, but if you've ever studied the Bell Witch, this is a lot running along the same timelines and everything.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, same time period?
No, different time periods. But I mean, as far as the amount of time that all this occurs is the same way that it did there. I just, that's something I saw, in it.
Yeah, so one of the things I was going to ask you guys is, Eric has always told me that, like, you guys don't ghost hunt in the winter.
How we do, it depends. And that's not entirely part of it. Just the fact we don't seem to get a lot of cases in winter time. Now there are places we don't hunt, so to speak. Waverly has no heating or air conditioning. Actually,
so
Waverly has no windows.
But that's about personal comfort. That's not about
it's
something
but
different.
There's nothing really is the reason why. Now, we actually have, at the time of this taping, we have 2 cases on tap, 2 personal cases that are now in that we're working on and get ready to bring to the team. And we have a pay-to-play kind of thing going on. Now, like with Hartford, we're going to be there next month. And we investigate, just depends on when we get it. A lot of times during December, it's kind of a creature comfort. We cut off after the 15th to allow everybody to have their holidays with their family, unless we get a personal case in. We usually kind of be careful in January and February because we never know if we reserve something and we go after it, because a lot of the times those are pay to play. And the problem is the roads and the weather. Right now they're predicting almost 70 next week. It's February. I guarantee it's a fake summer or fake spring where it's zapped. And, it's just, that's the way it works around here. I had my father-in-law who came from Florida. when he looked at our mudroom, he says, "You have all kinds of seasons of coats. Why don't you put this up?" I go, "You haven't been here long enough. We don't. You'll use them all
This
this
is
week.
Indiana.
Trust me. Yeah, this is Indiana.
You don't like the
Welcome.
weather?
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
wait an
Wait 5
hour, it'll
minutes.
change. Yeah, and I mean, so, but I don't know that we have a rule against that. It just here lately we haven't done a lot of that. We don't go to Paracons. I think the folks at Kansas City, they tried to put one on in February. It can be good, it can be bad. It's just the weather, you never know. It's always easier in the summer, so.
I just find it interesting that this happens in a winter season. I think it's interesting you lifted up the solstice idea, which is kind of
Winter actually is a good time to go because you remove some things that you get with heat. A lot of buildings don't crack as much. They tend to settle out if the temperature has been in a cold range long enough so you don't get the popping, the creaking. Okay. It eliminates some natural things. So actually it eliminates static electricity. It eliminates things that, and overall the EMF is lower. Yeah.
Okay. I got to help prove what's going on. Okay.
Sure.
Cool. So early in the haunting time period or whatever this is, just the servants and Mrs. Wesley and the girls notice it. So one of her first strategies after she gets a letter back from her oldest son, "Hey, Mom, I'm still alive."
Yeah.
And she's like thrilled and then tells them all the things that are happening. So they start to think it's mice.
Okay.
So the neighbor across the street used a fabulous mouse remedy, and they already had a cat. So apparently they're thinking their cat's not doing the job. So they decide to blow horns throughout the house.
Oh, my God.
Over a period of time and do sound vibrations to get rid of what is ever making this noise. And so they do that for a couple days.
I got to admit, that's the first time I've ever heard of that one. Yeah.
Well, we got those sonic ones.
Yeah, but those are ultrasonic. Nobody hears those. You're talking about blowing horns.
I know.
People hear that.
The early version.
Yeah.
Can you imagine neighbors walking by? Look at those crazy Wesleys. They're blowing horns in their house.
The mice going, "What in the hell? What is this all about?" I mean,
I think it's
oh my God, they need to turn down their music. Yeah,
I know. So about week 2 or 3, I can't quite pin it down. Some of the writings say it's Hetty, others say it's Emily, but one of those 2 daughters decide to nickname whatever this is Old Jeffrey.
Okay. Yeah.
So I went looking to figure out.
Yeah, why?
Did a Jeffrey die at the rectory?
Okay.
I can't find any records that there was a Jeffrey that would have been one of their siblings who'd passed. I did not find any of the other clergy that had been serving this church since the 1600s and earlier was a Jeffrey in last name or first name. Some of the lore says that a Jeffrey died there, and some of it just doesn't say. But again, I remind us that maybe this is the same site as the rectory that burned down. Sure. But it's at least near it.
This one, that part reminds me of Borley Rectory because it burnt down as well, and there's no records kept,
Yeah. So I can't, but anyway, they name him Jeffrey. And so that's how he gets named. So we go forward with him with that kind of nickname. The kids start to have disturbed sleep and having difficulty sleeping. When they bring the Mastiff in the home, at first he's like growling and angry whenever these noises and things are happening. And then in like less than a week and a half, he's hiding under the stairs.
Wow.
He's like
that's a big change for a Mastiff. Yeah.
And so once they finally have to fill in Samuel about what's going on because the horn blowing didn't work, it's not a prank of the girls that they can figure out, and it just keeps continuing. So Samuel Wesley is really disturbed by this and is trying to figure out what it is and what it isn't. And so when it starts happening throughout the day, Mrs. Wesley is about done in. And so she informs old Jeffrey, it's recorded, do not bother me between 5 and 6 o'clock at night because that's when I'm praying and I do not want to be disturbed.
Hour worth of prayer. That's dedication.
And
or a lot of things on their mind. Yeah.
Between 5 and 6 o'clock at night.
Wow. That makes, she drew the line in the sand. But I mean, it's just, you have to look
everybody
at that
listened.
Way.
Everybody listens. She's like the mama. She's like, I'm done with this.
Spirits and all.
She's like, okay, I'll stop. So then what gets really curious, and this is why I wanted to bring up the political thought about the family, is that so when they have evening prayer for the whole family at 6,
yes,
Samuel wants to pray for the king. And he and Mrs. Wesley are not of the same mind on who should be the proper lineage on the throne
Who would be
of England.
the king at that time?
I believe this would have been William III.
Okay, that sounds right. Okay,
I think it's William III.
Okay.
And so
he was in the 1700s. That makes sense, yeah.
So Susanna is a little bit of a Jacobite, for those of us who are into English history.
Oh, yeah.
We're now down the rabbit
hole.
She's
a Jacobite.
She's a little bit sympathizer.
So, what, 1716 you said?
1716.
That would have been George the First.
George the First. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
so she's a little bit of a rebel.
But here's what's interesting. Yeah. When Samuel Wesley prays for the king, George the First, the knocking gets really loud.
So somebody else is a Jacobite too.
Exactly. So the next night, Samuel says, I'm not going to pray for the king tonight. There was no knocking during his prayer.
Yeah.
So then there's a thought, is the ghost, a Jacobite sympathizer. Yeah. So I did a little other search, and there weren't any, some of the Civil War from the 1600s in England wasn't on this property, but was near this area.
Yeah.
So,
And we know that spirits can traverse that. So, and being Scottish, I know a little bit about Jacobites. And that's just interesting. That is super cool.
I know. So it's really, really curious.
Oh, yeah.
So how would you guys go about scoping out this 3 stories brick building to figure out what this is?
Before I interject, I'm going to let everybody else go first.
Okay. Yeah, Eric, what would you want to investigate? Well, or how would you investigate something?
I mean, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the house. We're going to see if we can debunk anything. So we're going to go through the list of claims, of noises and all that. We're going to go see what can we debunk? Somebody knocking. Okay, well, that could just be somebody playing jokes or lying. It's not the first time you've had people lie.
No. Yeah.
Claim. So, some of the other things, the sounds, we try to recreate them. We try to, you may work with the person there. You say, hey, is this what it sounded like? You're going to go through a list of these things to try to debunk it. That's the thing with our group is we're not going to fall prey to, oh, this place is definitely haunted. We're going to go through and we're going to do our own research.
Debunking the methodology.
Yeah, it's can we prove that there is a scientific reason first? If there's not, then we start exploring other options. But we're going to take all the claims and we're going to see if we can reproduce them. That's me.
Heather?
You said now or then?
Either one. What would you use today?
It still has no electricity or plumbing?
That's a great question. I don't know that it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it
probably does now. Yeah. But let's just say it doesn't, and we're investigating it today.
Well, I mean, we could still use our
we have power sources.
We have power sources, but like we start with the easy stuff, like Eric said, and then after that we'd probably have to set up our equipment.
Okay, fair enough.
Our cameras and such.
Sarah?
Probably following up on the same thing you guys are saying. Also, similar to how you made this podcast, looking at Jennifer for all the background on what the property had.
And actually, from my end of it, you did what we normally would tax Jennifer with. So you've got the history of it. So we have that in our hand. First thing we look at when we look at the blueprints is you've got, which is not uncommon in Elizabethan housing, every room is heated by a fireplace. Some fireplaces are dual. The fuse run between more than one level. Garrets were designed after the word garrison, and it's a military term because the garrison slept on the uppermost level. And people go, why? Because heat rises. That's why. And they could put a large heating stove in the basement or first floor, and that heat would gradually come up. And that's why some of the older designed homes in America have pass-throughs that go between floors, is because of this particular technology. So we're looking, and we look at the garrets. They had their chimneys came all the way up, but they were mainly heated one bedroom. The rest of the garrets were open space, but they were heated out there. The first floor has 2 double fireplaces. Okay, why I'm going into all this, yes, I love fireplaces, but it has nothing to do with the fact, other than the fact that they didn't really have flues back then. They didn't have a damper they could close. So those are airports. They basically allow air to come and go, so there's going to be sounds involved in those. There's going to be wildlife that can get in or out. Wildlife actually did. That's why the fireplace screen wasn't to keep things from jumping out of the fire as much as it was to keep things from getting out of the flue because of lack of a damper. So I would say that's definitely one. The first thing we would do is we would place equipment, places where we've seen things move. Latches move, so we'll put equipment on the IR cameras on the doors. We do have our own electricity, so we don't have to worry about the lack of electricity. The lack of plumbing would be bad for all those of us that had to go to the bathroom, but hey, we do get around that, you know. So, but that would be one of the first things. The next things we would do is we would put geophones on the stairs to see if there's movement up or down. We would put REM pods that definitely can be picked up by camera. And then we would start our active investigations. I would send one group to the garrisons, one to the first floor. That way there's no contamination. I would instruct everybody not to talk loud. I would say we run some SD sessions, see if we can reach out and touch. First of all, establish how many we're dealing with. Are we dealing with one ghost? Are we dealing with multi-ghosts? Several of the things that were brought up in the activity certainly was the knocking, so we want to know where those are from. We want to replicate those. If we can set up a communication system, whether it be through knocking or K2, we might be able to find more information out who's there. Certainly one thing I would lean against is as old Jeffrey. Mm-hmm. I'd like to know if old Jeffrey died there, and if he did, what his original name was, or was that his God-given name, because a lot of times they were renamed in English culture, and so, is it a surname? What are we dealing with? I know the girls just named him that, but, there might be a connection. It's actually Jeff. I would want to know about when these occurrences happened, what was going on outside. Was it storming? Was it winter? Was it summer? All that's going to play in. And I think that would be the initial starting. I would follow that up with K2 sessions on each level, and then I would like to sleep there. One thing we found out, especially with Randolph Asylum, is if you sleep long enough and give them time to recharge their batteries, they start acting up again, much like children. So I'd like to see what the back end of that.
Sierra knows that.
Yeah.
Too well.
Yeah. So I'd like to see where that's at. A couple things. If I think there's children involved, I'd like to deploy our, Phantom?
Boo Bear?
Yeah, well, Boo Bear is nice when he works. Yes, we deploy Boo Bear, but the Phantom Ball, Plasma Ball, the Plasma Ball that has that, because sometimes we can get them to touch that and look out. Certainly, since the girls play cards, I would want to use cards as a trigger object in the bedroom to see if any of that comes about. It might, now not to trigger because I don't think the girls are hunting the place, but it might trigger activity that the entity saw at one given point. Those are the things that I would look for. If we can, and probably consider this as a historical monument. They're not going to let us lighting fires in the fireplace. I about guarantee that's a no answer. Not. Yeah. So I would try to use maybe a electrical bulb that emulates flame, and maybe run one in from a power source to see if we could get something together around. Honestly, that would be the way that, and again, every place is different. We have a large toolbox. We take out so if we get hits on the SD sessions, we'll stay with it. If we get hits with K2, we may venture that way. Sometimes you can take a chalkboard we have, put a little powder on it, let something draw in it. So there's a lot of different aspects, and I think a lot of that from step 2 would be whatever the results of step 1 was. That would direct us on what we would do from there. So, okay, having said that, I think are we nearing the end here?
Yeah, just about. There's a variety of theories out there.
Okay, and let's get into those a little bit, 'cause I like that idea.
Yeah, that was kind of fun. So some of the theories that are out there are, first, I would just put in this big category of environment. Yeah. So thermal, land settlement related to the water drainage of the region. Mm-hmm. So not that there would be sewer pipes from this home, but there would be other kinds of things. Mm-hmm. We have no idea what trees were by the home during the time of this happening, so there could have been something like that, some sort of vegetation. Sure. And then, of course, Mrs. Wesley at one point thought it could have been mice, so there could have been some sort of critters involved. The next category of theories that I ran across are, I'm just putting this broad sense of the social and neighborhood. So, as I said earlier about the parsonage that was destroyed in 1709, the neighbors and the parishioners really didn't like Samuel Wesley's politics.
Yeah.
And a couple weeks before this all started, he did preach against the cunning men or the witches in the nearby towns.
Ooh. He was definitely a loyalist.
Yeah. So there could have been somebody playing some pranks.
Mm-hmm.
There's another story about some pranksters coming up to the home and some shots that got fired. So there could be something to that or not.
Okay.
Then you have to remember there's a lot of young ladies in this home.
Oh, God, yes. yes.
So let's chat a little bit about the boyfriends.
Yeah. They had boyfriends.
There could have been
Oh, well,
some young
yeah,
ladies
true,
who
true,
wanted
true.
to have boyfriends.
Yeah.
What were the age of these?
So I've got those listed. I think one of the oldest, I think Hetty is 23.
Old enough for suitors.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They go 23 down to 6.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's some hormones happening.
Oh,
That's
God,
what
yeah.
I'm thinking. Poltergeist.
Yeah, that definitely spells into poltergeist, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so it could have been, let's do this knocking to distract that this boy is leaving the house,
Yeah.
or something like that kind of thing. So there's that category.
There is, yeah.
There's also what I've put in this category of it could have been an inside job from someone in the home, which could be psychological or social. So I do want to go back to Mrs. Wesley, and I just want to honor her grief over losing so many children.
Sure.
And also lift up this family struggled financially. They were Mr. Wesley was in debt his entire life and died in debt. When he built this brick home, he never got to pay for it before he died.
Wow.
He was in debtor's prison at one point. This is part of
Wow.
the reason why his 2 sons worked so hard in their movement to inspire people to get out of debt. And
was he a full-time vicar?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So
I knew it didn't pay well, but wow.
No, it did not pay well. And this is a huge family, right?
Yes.
And they do a little bit of caring for growing some things to care and feed their family. Their family, Mrs. Wesley and Mr. Wesley have a turbulent marriage. So they had such a political difference at one point between how they had an alliance with the rightful heir to the throne in England that he left home for 12 months. And it was one of the few 12-month time periods she was not pregnant.
Wow. Well, that
No.
tells you,
What?
when you don't have TV, you don't have a gaming platform, I'll tell you, you find, natural ways.
So he finally comes home and they start having more kids. So there you go. So I just wonder if there's something about her misplaced grief, her frustration. I don't know. You guys.
That could be. I mean, hormones are a big thing in poltergeist. That's one thing we found out. It could always be the kids. It could be her pinup. That could have a lot to do with it. I mean,
Yeah. And then the next category is a lot of people like to blame Hetty for this whole mess. And they go the route that she's bored. They go the route she's hiding boyfriends. They go the route that Mr. Brown might have been a good-looking manservant. She just wanted to see him without his clothes. So she's knocking on his door to get him running out of his room. So, but they tell these stories and these ideas about Hetty, thinking that she created this incredible system of pulleys and levers.
Yeah.
And my thought about that part of the theory is this family lived here until 1735.
Somebody would come across
Somebody would have seen that.
Yeah.
So
and again, this emulates the Bells. I mean, my God, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
So then Mr. Brown could have been having a love affair with one of the daughters.
Sure.
Or the girls are working together to play pranks.
That could be. Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of interesting. And that's why I think it has so many different titles in history.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's referred to as the ghost. It's referred to as the poltergeist. It's referred to as the haunting. Because I think we're still trying to figure out what actually took place. Because as it begins in early December, it ends at the end of January.
Yeah.
And then there's one last postscript. In March, the family is at the dining room table and Dad's plate levitates and it drops. And that's it.
And it's a funny thing, the fact it could be, we talked about the fact that when the knocks ceased was when they didn't do a prayer for King George. afterwards, and it's funny, he obviously was a very hardline loyalist, so the entity picked him out. There's definitely a clue there. I mean, we look back on the Adams haunting and the Bell Caves and all that. It's very similar, scratching, knocking on walls, and I mean, I won't put that past the women. Young girls, they get bored. I remember my daughter when she had her first sleepover. They were in the bathroom trying to conjure Bloody Mary at like 2 a.m. And I got up and said, there's nothing coming through this mirror as mean as I am, and anything does, I'll kill it. And I mean, and I told her, I said, go back to bed, all of you. But they do these kind of things. That's normal. That's just part of growing up. So. I mean, it could go a lot of different ways. I'm like Eric. I kind of lean on, with all the hormones, everything running, I kind of lean on poltergeist. But I mean, that's strictly from just paper, reading all the accounts and all the evidence before without actually doing an investigation. So,
I mean, you look at it, it's not going to be residual. It's a new place. Mm-mm. You look at, so there's poltergeist and there's intelligent hauntings. It's not like there was mimicry and all that. So it was probably an intelligent haunting, but maybe poltergeist.
It could go either way. I mean, intelligent would certainly show why it was angry at the loyalist.
Could it have been both?
Could have been, yes.
Could it have been an intelligent entity, and we've got these hormone-ridden girls?
Well, and it's always like we were talking earlier when you ask how we would investigate. One of the first things to do anywhere we go is go, how many ghosts are we dealing with? Because that's one of the first things. It's easy peasy if you have one spirit you're trying to attract. When we went into Randolph, I think we had at least 12 or 13. If not more, that were known spirits to haunt the place. Mm-hmm. It becomes a little bit more multi-layered at that point in trying to figure out approaches and tools to use. So it could well be that we had some part of a poltergeist activity. We don't know what kind of land this was built on. We do know it's a bricked home. We know the floors were probably, more than likely, those were either, I'm not going to say gypsum, usually those are slate in England. They're either slate or they're limestone.
Eric, pull up some photos of the rectory.
Yeah, see if you can, just guessing.
Yeah, see what the floors are.
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering because that would give us our stone tape theory. And didn't we say this was near water as well? Well, it's the whole area.
They might even have been in dirt for a while.
It could be.
The main floor could have been dirt.
It looks mostly wood.
Okay.
The pictures I'm
seeing. It probably was dirt with wood over it. So, but still, the that area is very boggy, and that's actually, believe it or not, a lot of the bog there is used for heating. They take it out, they cut it, they dry it, and then they use it to heat with. So there's a good chance that the water tape theory plays in. Overall, I would say that has something to do with it. Just my guess from what evidence I have to roll on. Sierra?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah.
No.
Nope. Okay. I want to thank Michelle. You did a great job.
Oh,
this is neat.
You.
This has a lot of neat stuff in it. I really do.
This is very fun. The only thing I want to highlight is if you look at John Wesley's haunting rectory story I gave you, if you go to number 9, this is the evening where he invites Mr. Hoole over. Mm-hmm. And, I did a lot of checked on some ghost hunting folks in Great Britain.
Sure.
And they all attribute this work that Mr. Hoole and Mr. Wesley did as like an 18th century version of ghost hunting because these guys don't taunt any ghosts. Yeah. They don't yell at them.
They have certain parameters.
They wait for the activity to happen. And if you just read a little bit of what how they behaved, you get some pictures into, I think what I've heard all of you say are some of the better techniques. Is you wait to see what happens rather than you try to stir something.
Well, it's kind of like, it's a rude way of saying it. It's kind of like fixing an automobile or a water heater. You see what it's doing first. And then once you look at the claims, you can get an idea and you know what kind of tools you want to use. And then you got to see what it responds to. It may or may not do an SD session. It may do a K2 session. It may be something very old school. It just depends. But you start when one thing doesn't work, you grab another tool out of the toolbox and give it a go. Out of the people that were studying this, you didn't recognize M.J. Dickerson anywhere, did you?
I don't think so.
Okay, she's one of the more modern parapsychology investigators over there. We're friends with her and over in England, so I just kind of wondered. She might have been there.
She could have been on one of probably one of my favorite websites was Matt Arnold's website. I want to give a shout out to him for Ghost, Ghoul, and God website because he's the one who gave us the floor plan.
Oh, outstanding, outstanding. Well, I'm going to include all of the sources because there's so many. I want to include those. I'm going to put those on the actual or the podcast documentary itself, so it will be there in the paperwork, or you can email me if you'd like to know. But Michelle, you did a great job. If you ever want to write again, I'd be more than happy to have you do that. You did a great job. You really did.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we've had a good time. I think everyone's got a chance to look. We like to reach out, and we've been known to reach out to England several times on things. We really like this. This is really a good one, and it actually goes into the soul of the of the church itself and the forming. So that's kind of interesting as well. So one thing I'm going to ask is, and this is very odd, and I don't want to offend anybody religiously, but I'm going to ask you to close this with a prayer, and I'll say a few minor words, because I'll tell you a lot of things we do in parapsychology, no matter what your belief is, and we don't pick out individual of genre of beliefs or anything beyond that point, or any kind of specific religion, but we kind of be careful because this is as dangerous as working on electricity. I was thinking this the other day. I was watching a favorite YouTube video of an electrical engineer, and he was talking about working on over 10,000 to 450,000 volts, and it's very dangerous. What we do is very dangerous. You could bring something home. It could ruin your life. You have to be very careful. So I'm going to ask you to close this with a prayer for us, as you've done many times before you go on an investigation when you come back, and then I'll say a few final words, and we'll go off air.
All right. Thank you. God of grace and truth, thank you so much for who you are and how you are mighty. We recognize far too often in this world in which we live the evidence of evil, the workings of harm. And so we fall upon your power, your grace, your tenderness, and your mercy. We recognize that this world isn't all that there is, but there is something that is yet to be, that is beautiful and is your undertaking. And so as we live in this in-between time, I give you thanks for this amazing team, all the gifts that you have given them of intellect and abilities. I thank you for the work that they do. And I pray that you'll continually watch over them and protect them. Guard not only their minds and their hearts, but their bodies from any form of evil that would come to circumvent them and take them away from your presence, but most of all, take them away from a sense of peace that they find in your presence. So watch over us, we pray. For those who are joining us and listening, I ask a blessing on our listeners tonight, that you will guard them, you will watch over them, and you will bring them closer to you and your beautiful will for our lives. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for the ways in which you show us light and hope and opportunity, as we pray in the blessed name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you, folks. I think this has been an absolutely great episode. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. And folks, if you're listening through YouTube, I'd like to ask you again to hit the subscribe and the like button. That helps us out a lot. Quick commercial for Crawfordsville Paracon, October 24th through 25th. We will be there. We'll be doing live speaking. That's in 2026. So if you want, come out, free admission. So again, thank you so much and have a good evening. Time for Ghost Story of the Day with Heather Lawson.
All right, this story comes from Hoosier Folk Legends by Ronald L. Baker. The Crying Ghost. Back in 1890, I knew a man by the name of Elmer Myers. He was telling me a ghost story. On State Road 13, about 4 miles south of the county seat of Hamilton County, is a place then called Ghost Hollow. One night, when he was riding through this hollow on horseback, all of a sudden, the horse stopped and refused to go another step. On looking down beside the horse's head, he saw the form of a woman clothed in a white robe, weeping and drying her eyes with a white handkerchief. He asked her what was wrong. No response. He then reached forward, while still mounted on the horse, to take hold of the woman's arm, but she disappeared in the darkness. He then gave the horse the command to go forward, but before he passed through the hollow, the same thing occurred for the second time. She again disappeared. He then moved on with all the speed his horse possessed and rode out
where he felt safe.
Thanks for listening to Ghost. Again, I'm your host, Chief Lawson. You can find Ghost on all major formats on the 15th and 30th of the month at midnight. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, maybe have a question or subject you'd like to ask about on air or be used on the show, please email us at ghosttoghost@spiritindiana.com, ghosttoghost@spiritindiana.com. I want to thank my production staff on Spirit, Jennifer Verne, our research manager and our producer, and Heather Lawson, our trainer on Spirit and our podcast director, for helping make these podcasts possible. My chief of staff, Andrew Brooks, for his guidance and help on the scripts, and everyone else involved. Thank you so much. See you next time. Until then, stay safe and remember the truth is out there. Good night. Ghost to Ghost podcast and its contents is the property of Spirit Paranormal Ltd., all rights reserved. We welcome you to download and play the podcast and share with others for personal use. You may not, except with written permission, use or distribute its contents for commercial use. Spirit Indiana Paranormal, covering the Hoosier State since 2002, Indy's oldest parapsychology investigation group. If you're experiencing what you believe to be paranormal issues, reach out to us for help at www.spiritindiana.com or call our hotline at 317-883-9103. Again, that is www.spiritindiana.com or our hotline at 317-883-9103. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself and the ones you love, and be safe out there.